Ladies and gentlemen, something strange is going on in the chess world. Of course, many of you know about Magnus Carlsen, greatest chess player of today's generation and arguably of all time. And by the way, today is his birthday. So happy birthday to Magnus, November 30th. He turns 32 years of age, which is half of a chessboard, 64 squares, and age 32. Magnus tweeted a photo of Magic Johnson, the basketball player, because his number was 32. I was thinking, like, if Magnus was a basketball player, who would you compare him to? Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Steph Curry, I don't know, Alex Caruso? Anyway, the weird thing going on in the chess world is this. Who is Sinister Magnus? Who is that? That person is ranked number 2 on chess.com's leaderboard. Not anymore. That account is gone. I can't really tell what's going on there. And on that person's profile, it says the evil twin. Is this Magnus? Like, is he just trolling us by making us all think this is another human? Like a random GM that made this account, dedicating an account to Magnus? Or is there a secret evil twin out there? Like, is there a cool Magnus, an evil Magnus? I'm going to show you 6 games that this account played. Not that account. I'm going to show you 3 games by both of them in recent days and show you just how different they really are. And before I show you all of these Magnus and evil Magnus games, I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark. Hey, you, how much time do you spend every day on the internet? My guess is a lot. But to be honest with you, it's kind of inevitable nowadays. The world is more connected digitally than it ever was before. I mean, really, it seems like everything you do involves the internet. From video games, to work assignments, to booking tickets, to playing chess. So I have a wild idea. Why not protect your personal information while browsing the internet with something like a VPN? A VPN is a virtual private network that allows you to encrypt your connection to the internet so you can browse it privately and anonymously. VPNs have multiple use cases. For instance, protecting your data on an unsecure network, like when you stay at a hotel. And this is especially important if you're going to log into a sensitive portal, like your chess.com account. No, I'm just kidding, not your chess.com account, but something actually important, like your bank. Maybe your favorite show got removed from your favorite streaming platform because the contract expired or seasonality. Well, you can just use the VPN that you got in this ad integration, change the location on the VPN, and boom, you got The Office, Criminal Minds back, whatever you watch. And lastly, before you book your next vacation, change the location of your VPN and watch how the airline ticket prices change. Listen, I don't make the rules. It's a ridiculous situation that you might pay differently depending where you browse from. But that's why you get Surfshark. Folks, you know the drill at this point. You're interested in Surfshark, click that link in the description. And I normally say 83% off and 3 free months, but it's actually 85% off and 3 free months between November 1st and December 31st, 2022. Now that you're done protecting yourself when you browse the internet, let's get back to the video. I've got 3 games for you by Magnus Carlsen, and then we will look at 3 games by Sinister Magnus, okay? Evil Magnus. This is like Morty, evil Stewie. It never ends well. All right, so this first game, Magnus is playing against Raunik Sadhwani, very talented Indian junior player, which you can say about like 10 of them at this point. This game begins with a knight bd7, queen's gambit declined, and queen c2. Magnus plays here, black castles quickly, and then tries to solve his problems in a very forcing way by dropping the knight into the center of the board. By the way, today, no sounds. A lot of people complain that it's too different, too distracting. So I don't know, very convoluted. I don't know if I want to, break anything that's been working. Now, Magnus here plays b4, very interesting move. Hangs a pawn, but queen deflects off the center line. So this exchange is probably just bad for black. As you can see from the eval bar, it seems like Engine really doesn't like how much pressure white gets on all this. So Raunik just lets it go, and Magnus just bulldozes the queen side. Now the d5 pawn is completely on its own, and white has a very pleasant position. Raunik blocks the attack on the rook, Magnus trades knights, and then plays this move, and increases his pressure on the position by splitting the pawns here, and basically arguing that this will be a permanent problem, whereas white doesn't really have a permanent problem. The knight drops in, attacking the queen and defending the pawn, and now you anchor the knight there like this. You attack the knight moves back, and black is doing all right. But all Magnus Carlsen needs is just a little bit of an unpleasant situation here, and probably slowly but surely he will immediately go and target it. There he goes using his a-pawn. And you can rest assured that the game will be decided in some way by some breakthrough on that queen side, right? This is just what Magnus does to people. Knight e5, knight d3, that knight is going to bounce to f4 or to b4 where it will attack this pawn. The queen infiltrates once again. Raonic is doing a nice job here, but there's only so long that you can dance with Magnus before he tires you out, all right? He's a crazy dancer. Knight f4, I don't know, by the way, you think he's a crazy dancer? And finally, well, instead of going forward and being a little bit more aggressive, Raonic said, let's have a queen trade, Magnus. Which is not a good move. Trading queens here is not what black wants. And actually, Magnus could have immediately taken advantage of this poor coordination and just played rook c3. And black cannot stop white from just doubling and taking. So, like, let's say, I don't know, king f8, rook c1, king g8, I take on d5. That's all I need. I mean, Magnus just needs one extra pawn in this endgame. With a passer, he'll probably win. Okay? Now, Magnus does it in a slightly different way. He plays rook c3 first, but now black can avoid the queen trade by playing this, but Magnus doesn't miss a second opportunity. He swaps queens, and he takes the pawn in d5. Rook c3, all he needs is one extra pawn, a6. Black tries to play b5. Magnus shuts that down right away, and now very simple. The knight goes here, the rook goes here. Here, black resigned. Why? Why did black resign? Because after the move rook c7 defending the knight, which defends the pawn, white would just play this move. And now the rook has to choose this square or this square, and neither of those two moves work because there is the very simple knight to e7, and that would win the game via fork. And so here, Raonic resigned. A very nice, slow positional grinding game by Magnus, and that takes us to our second game. Now, Magnus against Vincent Keimer played another positional game. This one was a ready, bishop g2, and he played c4, d4, and e3. And essentially in this sort of reverse Benoni, white will pressure the center with e3, and then try to play for b4, try to put this knight on c2, this bishop might come here. It's a very interesting positional kind of battle. So knight c6, d3, and Keimer plays in a way that negates the movement of this bishop. So this bishop will not be able to just, come out to the g5 square where it would like to go. It could come out to the f4 square. That's actually not so bad. But then there's various g5s and so on you have to worry about in the future. So Magnus plays rook e1, waits a little bit, and now, as I mentioned, here comes the knight. It'll go either this way or this way, and b4 is on the cards as well. Wow. That was my inadvertent German accent there. I'm a little bit confused about something. My OBS was saying that there was noises being made by the computer, like some sort of desktop audio. Is that accurate? Were you guys hearing some sort of noises? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I just looked over at my streaming software and it said that noises were being made, like by the computer, but I don't know by what. By what could the noises have been getting made? Fascinating. Anyway, let me know. I'm very perplexed, but such is life. Okay. Anyway, knight a3. Castles, knight c2. And there we go. There we see it. b4 is on the way. c5 is on the way. The pressure on the center is on the way. Magnus plays the move rook b1, preparing b4. Keimer plays a4, a very nice move, making it difficult for white to play b4, because if white does this, en passant, and actually, this is some good pressure for black. Black is very happy here. The knight rotates to the c5 square and makes it quite challenging for the rook to survive on b3. So, instead of that, knight b4. Whoa. If you take twice, e5 will hang. So a very fascinating idea. Rook e8, bishop d2. Now I'm trying to anchor my knight on that square. I'm just making it a little bit unpleasant here for you. Bishop f5, and he's going to go knight h4 or g4. A slow game thus far, and Keimer strikes in the center. Look at Keimer's brilliant position here. All the pieces work super, super nicely. Magnus has to watch out after e4. I mean, like, e4 is a critical test of the white position. Most players here would absolutely disintegrate under the pressure. But Magnus is good at reversing these spots onto his opponents. He's very, very good at defending and all this stuff and kind of like making it impossible for opponents to actually prove any sort of advantage. So rook c1, queen d7, and Keimer decides, okay, I'm cashing out of the casino. I'm going to win my pawn. But that was a bad idea. Because by giving Magnus the bishop pair, he is now able to very quickly realize what the best defensive formation is, and it's to trade the queens. Normally, you don't want to trade when you're losing. Magnus is losing, yes, but it's only by a pawn. And at the end of the day, Black's strategy of overextending on the queen side, in the center, was based on the fact that space would dominate the game. Not anymore. Not anymore. White is down a pawn, but these pawns are very fragile, and Magnus plants his pieces in such a way that this pawn is impossible to defend now. He plays bishop d1 and bishop a4, and now Magnus has what's called a majority. He has a 3-on-1. 3-on-2 was a majority, but trust me, 3-on-1 is even worse. And bishops are better than knights in most endgames, and 2 bishops are probably better than 2 knights. Keimer has a very strong d-pawn. He will probably try to push it. What's the problem? Magnus's pawns are faster, and there is more of them. d3 gives away the pawn for the c-pawn. All Magnus needs is one tiny imbalance. We have rook d8 check, and here we go. He's going to bring his king, bring his pawns, and trades the rooks. So smart. So smart. Bishop and 2 pawns versus knight and 1. Let me tell you something right now. That knight and that king, they ain't stopping nobody. You know why? Because this is a defensive illusion. Illusion. Bishop takes b7. You take it. Oh, he didn't take it. But if you do take it, the pawn just goes. Pawn just goes. And the craziest thing is, you want to see something insane? Imagine this was the position, but the king was there. Like this. Imagine this was the position. I still win. Even if your king got 3 free moves, you can't stop my queen. That's the sneaky idea there. So bishop takes b7, a brilliancy, and he just marches the king. Look at this, bishop e8. I mean, this is so disrespectful. King e8, b6, a7. Keimer resigns. A grinding game, a little bit of a comeback game from Magnus. Wins in a suffocating endgame style. Now, Magnus also had a game where he played with the black pieces against Bogdan Daniel Deac. I mean, this guy is one of the best players in the world right now. Young guy from Romania. Right? Yes. Just wanted to be double check. Just wanted to be double check. That's... yeah. Now, this one was a Catalan. Magnus grabbed the c-pawn early and then just gave it back promptly, but developed his bishop and actually sacrificed the pawn. If you look at this position, you might be asking, why is he not taking on b4? Because then knight c6. Tricky move. And it looks like this is completely fine for white. It's not. It's not. I will be able to take your bishop because it's destabilized now if something takes, so be careful. So knight c6, knight d2, and from an early opening, it was balanced, as a Catalan should be, right? But after that, e3, rook a7, and Magnus started loading up the cannons on the a file. Look at this. I mean, double the pressure on that a2 pawn. The pawn could move forward, but Deac instead puts his knight in the center. Who can blame him? Then drops his knight a little bit backwards to pressure this pawn. So again, Magnus has to figure out how to defend a slightly unpleasant position where his opponent can sort of do nothing and just slowly improve the position and try to win, okay? So rook a5, rook c1, c6, knight e5, c5. Deac has his best position of the game. He needs to strike right now with the move e4. He chooses to play knight c4 and push the rook back, and then he does e4. b5. See, again, Magnus is so clutch at the right moments. If Magnus had simply realized that this was hanging, he would have played knight to f6. But this would be a horrible mistake because it's not about defending this pawn. The rooks are stuck defending each other, and that means the rook can't guard that. So there would be knight takes b6. Very important move. And if you play rook takes a2 in this position, I would take, my pawn would go, and Magnus would lose. And this game would not be in this video. But instead of that, b5, a very important counter-attacking move. And I think this move got Deac a little bit shook. Because while he did take the knight and then this, he suddenly realized it was anything but easy. We go to an endgame. Rooks and queens. In fact, we go so deep into this endgame that Magnus sacrifices his queen to get 2 rooks versus the queen. This is a draw. 3 pawns on the same side. The only person that can win this, actually, is the person with the rooks. Because if you get the rooks on the same file, like if you get both rooks on the a file, white's going to be busted, as long as this king is safe. But of course, that's not going to happen, all right? And then you're probably sitting there going, but Levy, you put this game in the video. Yes, I did. Yes, I did, because no human being would beat Bogdan Deák in this position unless that human being was named Magnus Carlsen. One slight inaccuracy, first by the pawns. Deák gets his pawns kind of frozen here, all right? So now he can't make any pawn progress. A slight inaccuracy, and then allows black to consolidate like this, and he plays one lazy move, and all of a sudden, rook g4, utilizing the pin on the king, this pawn falls, this pawn will fall, or this pawn will fall. And that's actually the worst of it, because after I take on h4 and I'm defending my king, I just go to the d3 pawn, and I just take it. You can get my rooks, but it's 3-on-1. Magnus is going to win this. It's just insane. I mean, the way he beats people is, like, disgusting. But the point of this video is that Magnus has an evil twin. And that evil twin does not win games in the same way. Here's a game that the evil twin, or Magnus himself, I don't really know. This might be Magnus after a couple of alcoholic beverages. What is an alcoholic beverage of choice in Norway, by the way? What do you guys drink in Norway? Anyway, this was a game that Sinister Magnus played against Nicholas Theodoro, all right, who's a very, very good blitz player and just overall player. I mean, he's beaten me twice, so you got to be a pretty good player to beat me. Or did he beat me once? He beat me once, and then we made 2 draws. In this position, you know, white castled queenside. This is from a Slav defense. And then played the move c5 and was like, all right, I'm going to close the position down. You're probably going to castle. And then you're in g4, b6. We're just going to blow each other up here. h4, h5. Crazy. Sinister Magnus was like, okay, let's open up the b file. Why would you allow me to do this if you've castled your king there? And Theodoro was like, well, because I'm going to trade the knights, and I have queen c6, and I'm doing very well here because after check, queen a4, I'm a pawn up, I have 2 bishops, you suck. And Sinister Magnus was like, well, you know, I'm an evil genius, so castles, knight b6, and then rook b8, and all of a sudden the position is tremendously unpleasant for white. Like, hardly simple, okay? Now, the best move would have been to play queen a5, be a little bit more aggressive, pin the knight to the queen, because the last thing you want to do if you're trying to launch an attack is have a queen trade. You ain't attacking anybody with the traded queens. But instead of that, we have queen b3, rook b8, and now here comes the queen, and not only here comes the queen, here comes the rook, and then here comes the knight, and then here comes the bishop, and if you count all that up, that's 10 plus 9, that's 19, plus 6 is very good, 27, just kidding, 25. 25 points of material barreling straight down for this king, while some of the pieces are asleep in their bunkers. It's not going to be a good thing here. Bishop takes a6. Theodoro, this greedy man, takes a second pawn. Why would Theodoro do this? He opens up now an entire open file. He doesn't open up an open file. He opens up an entire file. Okay, the file was not open prior to him opening it. All right? If a file is open and nobody's there to use it, is it an open file? I don't know. Too complicated for me. Look at this. I mean, you really want to invite this upon yourself. King's about a parish. All right? b3. I didn't realize that the skull stays. The skull only stays when the king is captured. That's funny. Rook c8, and Sinister Magnus beats people in ways that, you know, change them forever. You know, like they say that about fighters. Some fighters win by points. Some fighters change your life. All right, like in a bad way. And Sinister Magnus takes souls when he plays. Knight takes a4. That doesn't get a brilliant move from me. It just gets a good one. The position, you know, just falls apart here for white, as the king's defenses have been stripped. The king has no clothes. Just none. 0. All right? He didn't go Black Friday shopping in time. That's checkmate. That's checkmate. I mean, there's like, this is going to be mate in 2. This is going to be mate in 3. I mean, king is mated no matter how you cut it. All right? So, Theodoro doesn't play that, but knight c3, the knight can be captured 3 different ways, and all of them lead to mate. This one prolongs it by 1 move, but knight c3 is a monster move, the immortal horse here, and boom, knight c3 wins the game for black. And if you thought that was the end, it ain't, okay? It ain't at all. Sinister Magnus also played Jeffrey Xiong. Very good player. This one, a Queen's Gambit declined, not a Slav. This is an exchange variation. Bishop f5, very aggressive line. trying to prevent the natural development of this move. But then there's queen b3 here, which attacks the pawn, and knight bd7. Sinister Magnus gives away the pawn on b7. That's just a free pawn, right? Now, I have a question for you. Why would you play queen b3 unless you were planning to take the pawn on b7, right? Jeffrey Zhang gets a little bit too scared. Immediately gives black an advantage. So Sinister Magnus plays openings where he's gambiting pieces. Rook b8 would lead to the gambit of a second pawn, which pins the knight to the king, but then black would have played g5. And when the bishop came back to attack the rook would have kicked out the queen. And then probably the rook would have taken on b2. Then black would have played bishop b4 and tried to win the game just belligerently in the first 10-15 moves. Instead of that, Jeffrey plays queen b3 and goes, oh damn, maybe I don't want to get into this tangle, right? It's like a good fighter on the ground. Bishop Magnus like, yo, dude, take the pawn. The pawn's just hanging. Why would you see what I mean? If you waste time in the opening like this and the guy dares you to take it and you don't take it, you're not going to get a good position. Rook b8, now you can't take the pawn anymore. Now bishop d6. Folks, I got bad news for you. Jeffrey Zhang is about to get sinistered. That's a verb just invented. Queen d1, rook e8, rook e7, rook doubles. Uh-oh, this is bad. This is really bad. Magnus, well, sinister one, prevents the b4, b5 expansion. Jeffrey still goes for it, but the knight jumps into the hole on c4. Yes, you can try to come in here with my pawns, but I'm going to shut that whole side of the board down. And I got news for you. After I'm done poking and prodding your pieces to sort of dance and freeze on the queen side, I'm coming right back. And in this position, once another knight abandons the king, king is only protected by a few pawns. Magnus, evil twin, plays rook e6. And that is an open declaration of firing about to go down on that king. You can trade with me and the rook is hanging, but you run out of time. You run out of time. Queen c2 offers a queen trade. Magnus plays queen takes h3. And Jeffrey resigns. I think Jeffrey thought queen takes h3 pins the pawn, right? So I have this move. fg, gh. That is right. Unfortunately, I don't have to take the queen. I have what's called a Zwischenzug. In between move, queen h2 check. Defended by my bishop, then I would go here, and if that doesn't work, this ends the game on the spot. Sinister Magnus obliterates another king. And last but not least, a game that Sinister Magnus played with the white pieces against David Paravian. This one was a Catalan, and you would think like a King's Indian Catalan, and you would think, oh, it's going to be a grinding game. Sinister Magnus is going to do what Magnus does, right? They're the same person. And from the beginning, it was, it was a very interesting game, certainly. Black sacrificed the pawn. Black got a little bit of activity. The problem with a little bit of activity, though, is that you got to cash in, right? f4, aggressive move. Black plays this, and jumps into d3. Magnus takes on g7. I'm calling him Magnus. It really could be anybody, but the username is Sinister Magnus. And here, Magnus might play some positional move. But evil twin Magnus plays g4. Ignores everything happening on the queen side. Just defends the position a little bit. Walks the king off of the diagonal of the queen. Folks, a big attack is coming. Paravian tries to fight back. Bishop f3. And the other idea of moving the king here is that the rook is going to be able to join the party. You think, how's the rook going to join on h1? That's just stupid. Because after take, Sinister Magnus plays... I don't think Magnus ever plays a move like this. King to g3! Oh my goodness! The brilliance of this move is the fact that the king gets out of the way for the absolute monsters coming down the h-file. Knight comes out to f6. I shove the knight backwards. Queen c3 lines a direct line of assault. Folks, you think that there is nothing here, right? This is mate in one! Double check! Every square is covered by a piece. The king is double checked and mated. The knight hanging, the queen hanging, but you can't take either of them because they both check at the same time. Insane. Completely insane. The king tries to run. It ain't good enough because Sinister Magnus avoids the queen trade and then hunts the king out by sacrificing a knight, taking, and that's game over. You cannot stop checkmates, plural. I'm telling you, I don't know who Sinister Magnus is, but this dude is destroying people, okay? Now, as of right now, they are not on the leaderboard anymore. Hopefully that doesn't mean that they're some sort of cheater. The account is still open. It's not closed for fair play, but I guess they have to verify their identity or something. But I don't know. Very interesting. Let me know in the comments who you think it is, or if you think it's just Magnus trolling everybody. Yeah, happy birthday to Magnus, the big 32. I don't know why it's big, but anyway, happy end of November, folks. And I will see you in the next video. Get out of here. Go watch the World Cup.